Question 1. Express 47% as a decimal. To express a percentage as a decimal, we divide by 100. When we divide by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Now, it doesn't seem to have a decimal point there, but I'm here to tell you that 47 as a whole number would have an invisible decimal point just to the right of the 7. So if we're moving that decimal point 2 places to the left, we would end up with 0.47 as our final answer when we convert 47% to be a decimal. Question 2. Express 8% as a decimal. To convert a percentage to a decimal, we divide by 100. When we divide by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Doesn't seem to have a decimal point there, but I'm here to tell you that in a whole number like 8, the decimal point is invisible just to the right of the number. And when we move that decimal point 2 places to the left, you can see that there's a loop there just to the left of the 8 that doesn't have anything in it. We'll fill that with a 0 so that we're keeping the proper decimal places there, the proper place values for the digits. So we'll put a 0 there. Now the decimal point needs to go just to the left of that 0. And we also put a 0 on the left of that, just to show everybody that it's a decimal number that we're writing down. So the final answer, 0.08, when we expressed 8% as a decimal. Question 3. Convert 70% to a fraction in simplest form. We put the percentage number over 100. So 70% becomes 70 over 100. And then we'll simplify if possible. We'll simplify by trying to find the biggest number that divides into the top and the bottom there. And those numbers 70 and 100, they both end in zeros. So we can divide the top by 10 and the bottom by 10 to simplify. 70 divided by 10 is 7. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So our final answer to convert 70% into a fraction in its simplest form, it ends up being 7 over 10 or 7/10. Question 4. Convert 60% to a fraction in simplest form. We put the percentage number over 100, so 60% becomes 60 over 100. And we look to simplify if possible. To simplify, we try and find the biggest number that goes into the top and into the bottom. And if you look carefully there, the biggest number that can go into 60 and 100 is 20. So on the top, 60 divided by 20 makes 3. On the bottom, 100 divided by 20 goes 5 times. So our final answer when we convert 60% to a fraction in its simplest form is 3 over 5 or 3/5. Question 5. Express 40 over 100 as a percentage. We multiply the fraction by 100 to turn a fraction into a percentage. 40 over 100 times by 100. We can divide 100 into the bottom of the left-hand fraction and into the top of the right-hand fraction. They kind of cancel out there, leaving us with 40 on the top and 1 on the bottom. You could do it a different way. You could multiply across the top and across the bottom. and get the same sort of answer when you do some more cancelling. In the end though, 40 over 100 is 40%, because any number out of 100 kind of is a percent anyway, isn't it? Question 6, express 1/4 as a percentage. You might know this already as one of the basic percentage amounts and major fractions. But anyway, we'll multiply the fraction by 100 if we were doing it from scratch. So we have 1/4 times 100. It's a bit like 1/4 of 100. We might be able to think of that just off the top of our head. But we'll end up with 25. We could also multiply across the top and get 100, and across the bottom. 4 times 1 makes 4, and simplify that way. And we'll divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4 to simplify. 4 goes into the top 25 times and into the bottom once. When you've got a fraction over 1, you don't need to write the 1 in so much. And so we end up with a final answer of 1/4 being equivalent to 25%. I'm hoping you might have known that already. Question 7. Express 0.18 as a percentage. To convert a decimal to a percent, we multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So in 0.18, if we move that decimal place, the decimal point 2 places to the right, we'd end up with a 1 and an 8 and then a decimal point. We don't really need to write that decimal point in when it's off to the right of the last digit like that. So each can just express it as 18%. So really in a decimal, if you've got a 2-digit decimal or a decimal with 2 decimal places, the first 2 digits to the right of the decimal point end up being what I call the percentage digits. So that becomes 18%. Question 8. Express 0.4 as a percentage. To convert a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. With 0.4, if we move that decimal point 2 places to the right, you can see there's a loop. That second move there doesn't have anything above it. To make sense of those decimal places and their place values, we'll put a 0 in there to hold its place. And then if the decimal point is off to the right of that, we don't really need to write that decimal point in anymore. So we end up with 40%. So if we put that 0 after the 4, that then becomes 4 and 0 being in what I call the percentage positions in a decimal, straight after the decimal point. So 0.4 is not 4%, it's 40%. Question 9. Express 0.03 as a percentage. To convert a decimal to a percentage, we're going to multiply by 100. Going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. 0.03 there, if we move that decimal point 2 places to the right, it'll be just to the right of the 3. When the decimal point is just to the right of a digit, we don't really need to write that in. So we end up with an answer of 3%. So with the 2 digits after the decimal point being a 0 and a 3, we can just say, okay, they're in the percentage positions there of that decimal. The first 2 digits ends up being a 0.3. So we can say that's the final answer is 3%. You might get pretty quick at that if you get the hang of it. Question 10. Express 0.068 as a percentage. To convert a decimal to a percentage, we multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, we move the decimal point 2 places to the right. If we do that with this digit, this number here, it will move across to be between the 6 and the 8 for our final answer. We'll definitely have to leave it in there this time instead of disappearing it. Anyway, we get a final answer when we express 0.068 as a percentage of 6.8%.